Asachali Simbestru Palomplex, and good morning and welcome to Kusile Breakfast Show. Thank you for joining us this beautiful Friday morning. I'm always excited for the weekends. I'm going to so young at go to Villa Wabang Leslano in Jabla Kuli because it's got
Hayi
a pumula.
usukuthi again.
Njake weekend nje lokuthi nje weekend
Kwenteka ujake so ujake sonke.
Njake sombe.
Ofana nami. Do you know why I'm excited today?
Yeah.
What day is it today?
3rd of May.
What does that signify?
Langa late for again today.
Indeed. Happy World Press Freedom Day. Kubo bonke labasebenta ku media. Suku lolukhulu kakhulu kodwa ke sicubulo salonyaka Mphombeni sibuye kakhulu ukuthi indzaba the environment. Njengoba sathi ukuthi the world is being confronted by a big climate crisis, but ngitaze ngiyona lenzaba ayisiyo yami Mphombeni tawungena kuwe yami lomuhla yetemidlalo. Labathanza ibhola siyathi ukuthi ngalesihlanu siba nemehlo langedekile. Fabrice Msonera will join me on the program later today. We want to discuss first and foremost week 24 games of the MTN Premier League. It's going to be a big weekend. Mbabane Highlanders is going to face off with Mbabane Swallows. It is going to be a Mbabane derby, and we do know that Mbabane Swallows is currently leading the race of whoever is going to lift that hardware. So that is a very, very, very interesting race there between Mbabane Swallows, Young Buffaloes, and Green Mamba, who are the three potential teams to win it all when all is said and done. But we do also want to look at the English Premier League. Really, really interesting games. But the most interesting thing there is the race between Arsenal and Manchester City. I get too excited, and I've realized, Kutsi, I will say too much. I do have a pundit. My opinion is just an opinion. It doesn't have that much value. But Fabrice will join me later on the program to give us value on all my think pieces and all my opinions around what is going to happen this weekend. But Mphombeni ngalolu suku lengilithokotela lo muhle engabe usiphathelene.
Yeah, one uhlala ujabulile vele na ukukhuluma temidlalo, especially with Fabrice ngalokuthi vele kuba khona lani bese niphikisana khona bese.
No, it's because he's wrong most of the time and I'm right. Have you noticed that?
I have.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
I have. All right. Mbukeli njengoba sivedile ukuthi lamhla it's World Press Freedom Day, langa late futhi langa lebantfu that are in the media sector. The 31st edition of World Press Freedom Day will highlight the significant role played by the press, journalism, access and dissemination of information ukuthi a secure and sustainable future that respects the rights of individuals and their diversity of voices as well as gender equality. In 2024, a World Press Freedom is dedicated to the importance of journalism and freedom of expression in the context of the current global environmental crisis. We will have Secretary General of the Editors Forum, Chabu Matsebula, Tokuksana naye njengabantu ngelanga lanamuhla ukuthi what is the purpose and okonje ukuthi libaleke kanganani kithi sitintsatheli. And of course, it's a Friday sitawuphinde siteke netindzaba tekubhadalwa kwemthelo wabomabona kuze TV license only 180 malangeni annually na 50 malangeni njalo ngeteka ko manga uthenga bosikutshana noma ke ama decoders sitabe sinaye phumelele Dlamini kuva ukuthi the level of compliance siven samaswati iyona inganani ngoba sitawukhumula ukuthi solo baqhudela sive ukuthi asubhadale lo mthelo. And of course iphinze sikhulumeke nema inspections abo sitawukhumula ukuthi solo bachuba ama inspections live lonke kuhlola ukuthi tingapani bosomabhizinisi netitolo etithengisa lama gadgets lawa dia comply vele tiyawabhadalisa yini sive samaswati ema TV license.
World Press Freedom, ngibuka letinfo lotibalile lungelele. The first thing loyibalile is gender equality, and I think Kusile Breakfast Show is just an epitome of that. They see me and you every day. They see a male figure and a female figure. Equal representation, but on top of that, you just spoke about diversity, the rights of people and their diversity. Umbukeli tawukhumbula ukuthi esukwini la itolo interview yakho na babe Makama ngicabanga ukuthi ngiyo le diversity le livela kangwane bese livele ke lihamba ngaleto chatfulo leto nje na ubuka likhetfo ubuka yonke imisebenzi lebekhona elive boyibona the representation yabantu, women, young girls, young men, bantu labadzala bogogo bomkhulu, people with special needs. Konke bokubona.
Khona like inclusivity.
Yeah,
Especially
it's quite
solo
important.
sikhuluma ngayo. So ilanga lelikhulu letfu leli lamuhla, and of course we deserve to be celebrated Fizo, because vele we're always in harm's way, particularly kulamanye amave nje lapho khona vele kuba nema conflicts akhona kakhulu ama challenges tintasele tihlangabetana nato. Nathi la ekhaya Eswatini kuba khona vele mhlambe la kukhanze khona ukuthi sesiyagileka, but siyachubeka sisebende ngemfutho lomkhulu nangekuthi ikhandla lokukhulu, such as working on public holidays, because vele kumele sibe la ngalokho ngumsebenzi wethu, so siyasebenda noma kanjani.
And indeed, we've heard the gut-wrenching stories happening in Yemen, in the Gaza Strip. Tinzatheli tilapha at the forefront, making sure that every day in Nasibane segment, my international news, you get to see these stories that are compelling, that are impartial, that are accurate. But you have to understand, Gutsi, behind that, there's a journalist, there's a videographer, there's an editor, there's a reporter. All of that means sacrifice from a journalist. So at least we get a day to respect and honor Bantu Laba Brave Ganga. And indeed, we saw it even with COVID, Lungelele. We were supposed to be out there to report for Babugeli Emakaya, to actually, know which information is correct, because at the core function of Mr. we have to make sure that we don't spread disinformation and misinformation. In fact, we demystify every information lehamba ngalolo nyawololo. So at least, Mina Lungalele, I can affirm you today. If no one's going to celebrate you, if you're not going to receive a call or a message, I celebrate you every day. I think you're important. Lapa, we're important to the country.
We're both important. Yeah. Yes, we're both important.
I mean, all of us. Eswatini TV is important, and all the other media houses. That's free promo.
All right, just stay with us. Come on, just as careful. See how we are to begin knitting zaba.
Welcome to the ultimate guide to your weekend entertainment. Get ready to groove with us as we bring you the hottest music videos and exclusive interviews with your favorite celebrities. Experience fresh music videos from new releases, underground sensations, and emerging talent. Whether you're hip-hop, amapiano, or afro, we've got something for everyone.
And if you've missed out on any of the excitement, don't worry, we've got you covered. Join us for an electrifying journey through the music scene. Relive the magic and get inspired for your next weekend adventure.
You got me stuck on you. Agusafumi, agufumi ntule. Bizinyati buta, bizinyati penya, bonke kwami kyakalela.
So tune into This Week at Eswatini for your weekly dose of music, entertainment, and unforgettable experience. Get ready to groove because the weekend starts here.
You got me stuck on you. Come on, it's a simple song. Sing with me. Say, you got me stuck on you.
Catch Eswatini Lifestyle Friday evenings at 6:30 p.m. on Eswatini TV. Hello, and of course, this is Eswatini Lifestyle, and of course, this is your wonderful host, Chukiz, meaning we're here to give you nothing but the best of the entertainment and lifestyle scene in the kingdom of Eswatini. Get the trending stories with your favorite stars of Eswatini in fashion, showbiz, food, travel, and events. They say when you're in doubt, which color do you wear? Orange. Simply follow Eswatini Lifestyle on our Eswatini TV pages and social media platforms. Don't forget to catch the show Fridays at 6:30 p.m., repeats on Mondays at 9 a.m. on Eswatini TV, Spogo Semaswati.
Well, umhla ngiphinze ngomukele ehlelweni Kusile breakfast show yangalesihlanu suku lolukhulu lomuhla lisuku letinsatheli lisuku lwalabo labasebenta ku-media asingene kunadi tindzaba sitethabele indzaba yokucala lobuke kusebenta kwetinhlangano takamhlabuhlangene kuleli George Washira uthi tinsatheli tinenzima lenkhulu lekumele ukuthi tidlale tindzabeni tekugucuka kwesimo selitulo. Washira bekakhuluma emhlanganweni wemalanga lamabili lohlelwe inhlangano yaka United Nations lapho khona tinsatheli takuleli titawube tikhulumisana khona mayelana nenzima yato mayelana ke netindzaba tekugucuka kwesimo selitulo. Lenye ke indzaba letawutekwa kulomhlangano indzaba yekutilawula kwetindlu tetindzaba phecelezi self regulation.
As we talked, somebody said this is the new normal. In other words, we have to expect that the kinds of devastation we are seeing from nature are going to be with us for a long time. And they will come in various forms and shapes. Some will have droughts, like we are experiencing in most of this region. As you would know, some of your neighbors, you are lucky as Eswatini, but your neighbors, Zambia, Malawi, Zimbabwe, have already declared drought emergencies with the expectation that there will be not enough food for those countries. South Africa has announced that they may not have enough produce to sell to the region as they would normally do. So in summary, the whole idea of a Press for the Planet is how we, as people that analyze and inform the world, we can become seized of this crisis we're living through today. How we understand the planetary crisis that we are facing today, the climate change and the devastation it is causing, the conversations that are going on in terms of how we might be able to reverse this. Analysis suggests that every year we delay action, it's going to cost us even more. So if we had started doing things that we agreed to do some 20 years ago, the devastation that we are seeing today would be less, and the cost of reversing would be less. But because we have waited until we are at the very edge of the precipice, we're going to be paying more to save ourselves. And there are some that doubt that we have the will and the capacity to pull back from the precipice.
Umcimbi wekosa inyama ngenhloso yokucokelela inyama sewetfule libito lelisha lalomcimbi. Sihlalo wenhlangano iphilani Maswati Lutfo Dlamini uthi konke sekume ngemumo kuthi ke ubanjwe nalonyaka lomsebenzi. Dlamini ubonge inkampani yeSwatini Meat Industries ngekwemukela ukuthi lo mcimbi salo ubitwa ngekuthi yi-Mbiveni Biggest Braai. Dlamini bekakhuluma nakwetfulwa lelibito lelisha emahhovisini aseMbiveni kuMathapha.
Eswatini Biggest Braai, which started some 10 or 12 years ago. Sike saba ne-break la stage yokhona i-COVID sangakhona ukusebenza iminyaka lemibili, and we are very happy ukuthi lo nyaka sinale 8th edition ye-Eswatini Biggest Braai. Lesibonga kakhulu baseMbiveni ukuthi nasiyocela ukuthi basibambise baphumelele balele ukuba ngasebenzisana nathi. We are very, very excited to announce ukuthi one, the Biggest Braai ikhona lo nyaka mhla ka-20 July emavuso. Two, akusasiyo nje i-Biggest Braai yaphilani, but sekuseMbiveni, abaseMbiveni bavumelene ukusinika, I would say, the first sponsorship for the Biggest Braai lapho sivumelene khona ukuthi cha salevele kuthiwa kuse-Enbiveni biggest pride ngoba imbiva itimbatsa kanye nathi ngekusibambisa ngekusinika inyama lebasithembisile ukuthi itawuphelela le awudzingi ukuthi uyihlafunele le mbiveni. So they will supply us with all the first class products bafake ekhathi inyama yenkomo, ivosi, inkukhu ne-pork inyama lesatiko ukuthi biggest pride into lithambe mbili. We are here to accept the sponsorship and nekutshela eMaswati ukuthi sesilungele kuyibekela hlahleni, and we are very happy ukuthi sitawusebenzisa inyama lehambe mbili eMaswatini, inyama lesiyatiko nenyama lesineliciniso ukuthi eMaswati atayi-enjoy. More than anything else, ngicela ukubonga banikati bembiva, ngibonge abaphathi bembiva, ngibonge tisebenti tembiva, ngibone nema-custom ladla inyama sembiveni ukuthi lokho lentasibambisa kubo utawuhamba umgamo lomude ekusiteni nabantu labadzala nesitama kubasida. Singazi
Kutemidlalo Wandile Masina locecesha umdlalo lo watiwa ngekwekuthi yi-mixed martial arts. Uthi lo mdlalo uyindlela lenhle yokudivikela ikakhulukati kubomake labahlala njalo babhekana nesimo lesibita ukuthi badivikele. Masina uthi ngekuhamba kwesikhathi kungaba kuhle kakhulu ukuthi lo mdlalo ugcine ube nenhlangano yawo lapha eveni.
Umdlalo lo watiwa ngokuthi mixed martial arts umdlalo losetshenziswa ngilabanyenti njengemidlalo yokudivikela. Wandile Masini ufundzisa lo mdlalo lapha eveni uthi lo mdlalo ulungela wonke umuntu ikakhulukati bomake ngesikhathi sekubita ukuthi bativikele.
Kuyindlela yekudivikela uyabona both genders ukuthi wesimame noma wesilisa. Yes, so sikubita ngalo ukuthi lele ngujimisa abonyalo it's mixed martial art. Yes, so kubhicene ikarate, boxing, kickboxing, judo, uyabona. Yes, because like most women fights they end up on the ground. So more especially for my ladies, uyabona. So ikahle kakhulu because bayakhona ukuthi defender nalokuthi nje babe ne self esteem bakhona ukuthi no nangakamele ukuthi ba nazale nesimo thide. Bengilenge ngababona but defender bang 3 so ngenhlanhla lenhle bakhona ku escape kuleyo nazana situation ababhekene nayo.
Dineo Pereko sawunetinyanga letisithupha dlala lo mdlalo uyachaza ukuthi yini la kuzuzako ngekudlala lo mdlalo.
Firstly is fitness and physical training, but secondly, as you've seen, is very good for self-defense, especially for ladies. Well, for everyone, but especially for ladies. If someone came after me, I feel comfortable, but I would defend myself enough to run away. So I would recommend ladies to really take part in this kind of sports in any martial arts form.
Ngekusho kwaMasina sesikhona sidingo sokuthi kusukunyiswe inhlangano yalomdlalo ekagcina ibona linyenti leMaswati angenela lo mdlalo aphinza khona ukuthola lethuba ekumelela live ngaphandle kwakuleli. Lobekela umsakati Eswatini TV temidlalo ngilinda Dlamini kanzombe kuhlanganiswa nguFabrice Msonera eMbabane.
Tingakwenza ba talomuhla sitawubahlola emarket sitacubana lihlelo masinyane.
If you can dream it, you can definitely achieve it.
So we are saying to young people, go out there, explore the world, explore the possibilities.
Follow Nomalungele Jele every Friday at 4:30 p.m. as she brings you inspirational entrepreneurial story covers from our very own entrepreneurs in the kingdom of Eswatini.
Always strive to choose something that you enjoy.
Don't miss the chance to be motivated to turn your business ideas into reality at 4:30 p.m. on Friday on Sibuwa Semaswaati.
Welcome back. Sakuvusela nawo losanza kusivulela this Friday morning. Besivetele ukuthi sitawuteka tindzaba tekubhadalwa kwemthelo wabomabonakude i-TV license. Lokho imvelo sihlala sinikhumbuta njalo ukuthi nibhadale 180 amalangeni kuphela njalo ngemnyaka. I'm joined by Phumelele Dlamini losowakhona ka-TV license. Kuva nje ukuthi ngabe basebenta kanjani bangelolu bandla ngoba njengoba sakhumbula ukuthi ama-inspections sola yachubeka live lonke lapho bavakashelwa khona titolo letithengisa ama-TVs nalamanye ama-gadgets tivakashele emakhaya kuhlola ukuthi esive samaswati siya comply yini vele. Asikuvuzele Nkosi. Thank you for joining us once again. Vele solo siyachubeka vele nawo lomkhankaso sithi bamba babhadale i-TV license and asimanje sithi shelo kunemthetho Television Authorities Act yeminyaka wa 1983 kume kusikhumbuta nje sengangene nje kule compliance kume kusibuyisela emuva kancane sichaze ngalomthetho ukuthi umthetho vele uthini kahle kahle.
Ngiyabonga Lulu, angicaleke ukuvusela ngivusele naye ke umbukeli. Umthetho uSwaziland Television Authority Act wa 1983 nguye lo sigunyatako kulomsebenzi leswendako wokukoleka umthelo wamabonakude. Lo shoko kuyiwona ukuthi wonke even laseSwatini lona mabonakude aphindze ke abe noma nemshini lofaka ekhathi i-decoder lofaka ekhathi i-set-top box noma skujani noma ke ngiluphi ihlobo lo munye lomshini leli kusitako phela kuthole sona sithombe semsakado kungaba noma ngisiphi ke sithombe akukhathalekile ukuthi ubukela yena Eswatini TV noma ke sofuna kubukela indlela talamanye emave kodwa ke nawo thola nje sithombe semsakado ubhekekile kule live laseSwatini lokho ukuthi ubhadale umthelo. Angicela kucondzisana ke Lulu nawe mbukeli ukuthi i-TV license kusho ukuthi nawubhadalela amabonakude yedwana ngilo 180 ngemnyaka. Naso ubhadalela ke le minye imishinyana lengibalile lokufaka ekhathi i-decoder lokufaka ekhathi skujana nale minye ke imishini sesihamba nge-technology nyalo ngoba ukhansa seku afakwa ekhathi maybe ngathini slides uyawubhekeka ke khona ukuthi mhlawumbe ubhadale 50 emalangeni emnyakeni kusho ukuthi uyawubala 180 bese uthi plus 50 emalangeni lokho ke kukunika 230 ngemnyaka.
Okay.
I-TV license ke ngekusho kwalomthetho iSwaziland Television Authority Act of 1983 i-1 year lokho kusho ukuthi icala kuJanuary iphele ngaDecember noma iba 12 months lokusho ukuthi noma ngabe uyithenge ngasiphi isikhathi semnyaka uyawubala 12 months bese nakuphela loyo 12 months so uyawubhadala ke umthelo wakho wamabonakude. Lokuhle ke Lulu lokho ukuthi sekwaba malula nalokubhadala awusadingeki ukuthi uthathe leyo mali uhambe ngetinyawo noma ugibele leyo bus kubuka naso phela simo semnotho la ukhona kungaba sekhaya kungaba semsebenzini kungaba sebhizinisini uyakhona kubhadala amabonakude wakho nga MTN mobile money nga imali noma ke nge-EFT sinayo i-bank account lesenet bank longa bhadala kuyo. Ngicela ke kuchubeka kafishane ke ukuthi lo mthetho awubuki ke kuphela lona losekhaya ukuthi abhadale kodwa ke nawo onke emabhizinisi lathengisa yena amabonakude lathengisa ke nale machine leminye lesibhalile ibhekekile ukuthi lawo mabhizinisi ibhadale umthelo wamabonakude kwendlulele futhi kuloko kuye ke nakunang lo Kenkago lo Kenika yona le machine lesesikhulume ngayo bomabonakude naye ubhekekile ukuthi abhadale yonke le ma license 1 year lokho kusho ukuthi valid 1 year kusukela kuJanuary kuyofika ku31 December noma ke ku12 months nakuphela loyo 12 months kuloyo naloyo depending ukuthi ukuphi isector usebhizinisini usekhaya uyaciphisa uyalungisa uyawubhekeka ukuthi ubhadale umthelo wamabonakude.
Okay. Iminyaka neminyaka Phumi you've been calling for emaswati ukuthi abhadale i-TV license. Ingabe le response kanjani vele and ngiyakhumbula ukuthi vele ama inspections ola yachubeka kukhona in instance lapha nike nakhanza khona ukuthi kunemvunjelo ongatanga nje saka kayibhadale nhlobo nje i-TV license.
Ngeminyaka Lulu kuyavarisha ngiko nathi sicucutela ngelanga siphuma sifundzisa ukuthi bekunene vele umthelo uyabhadalelwa. Kuba khona vele lo lokhanza ukuthi usathi yena uyathi mina azange sengive nge-TV license. Ngabekisa nje ukuthi besiselibonjeni not so long ago and sihlangene nako kakhulu lokho ukuthi lo munye athi awu mina angadi nge-TV license. Lo munye ke mhlawumbe ngalokuthi uyitholile i-license nakathenga leyo TV. Kepha-ke wangasatifunzi letincabekelwane noma lo lokubhaliwe phela ngale ngemuva kwale TV license kokuthi i-TV license yakho iyabhadalwa noma sowuphumile la sitolo. Bekekile ukuthi after lo mnyaka noma loyo 12 months bhadala phela i-TV license yakho. So yes, kuba khona lalabashoko ukuthi ngisengadi nge-TV license.
So bona labo nibenda njani phumi ngathi lothi vele umthetho bese udlala inzima yawo, particularly labo nje labasolo basemuva vele sebaba nema penalties. Ngabe kuyafana nalona nje lobhadala once bacubeka wabukela wangabhadali. Ngabe lapho umthetho uthini, kumele ukuthi bese nihandlisha kanjani?
Umthetho uvele uthi ignorance of the law is no excuse. Kepha-ke lesikukhutsatako thina silihhovisi laka TV licensing lokho ukuthi asikufundzise sibuchazele ukuthi kuhamba kanje. You know, kuye kube appreciated ekuphileni ngokuthi umuntu nasekane knowledge then ke soyakhona kwenta an informed choice or decision. So ngaleyo ndlela lo munye soyabona ukuthi ifault ibe ngala. So yasithatha ke leso stepisi sokuthi abhadale. So as much as vele umthetho uthi we then reinforce ngokuthi sesichubela embili, but kwethu lihhovisi kokuthi sicale sizame lokuthi sifundzise sibonise ukuthi umuntu akhoneke bese soba nalo lolwadi lokuthi kusasa angeke ngiyiphindze le mistake.
But are they keen in vele kuba khona ukuthi vele bayafuna lokwadi noma mhlawumbe vele bamfasifani bakhona vele labatawubutisisa bafuna ukuva kabanti ngayo TV license, bakhona labatawuthi senisiyekeleni niyahlangana na both kinds of people nisenda ama inspections?
Absolutely Lulu, yes. But ke kuloko kwethu sitawuchubeka vele sisho ukuthi TV license idzingekile ukuthi siyibhadale. Maybe the question is leni vele lokho ukuthi ngiyibhadalelani, because esikhatsini lesiningi naloko siyakhanza leni lokuthi ngiyibhadale le TV. Kungaba ngumthetho kodwa ke ekwengedeleleni kuthi ngumthetho i-development idzinga lokho ukuthi kube khona phela lokukhokhelwako. Naso ke steshi as the authority leya mandate ukuthi kube ngiyo lebukela kuthatha umthelo wamabonakudze. Iyadzinga lokho ukuthi kube nale progress. Kunetinhlelo letidzinga kubukelwa. Nyalo ke sisenhlanhleni silive la kangwane nalokuthi nalama talenta ayanza kulabantu labasha. Kunema independent producers sesinalaba labasakhela lama film khona live end. Kunokuthi bachithekele kulamanye emave bayofuna emadlelo lalihlada. Kungumsebenzi wethu silive ukuthi sizame kuba container mhlawumbe ngikhulumela i-TV institution lekunguye lokoleka lo mthelo. Kuyabenefita kakhulu ngoba phela naso stage locally sitawube sesiyakhona lokuthi sithengele amafilimu nathi sigcine sesifika kuleli zinga lelisemhlabeni first world noma ke lamanye emave internationally la khona kukhokha tinhlelo leticishe tichaze futhi letiphindze tibuye tibukele ukuphila kwethu singemaswati nokuthi thine sesindlondlobala kangakanani silive. So kungaba nje Lulu kucucutela nekucela ukuthi emaswati akakhuthale akawukhuthatele kukhokha umthelo wamabonakudze.
So nasibuka le level of compliance nje phume ningathi senisebenzile because vele seminyaka solo everyday nela emsakatweni solo niyakhokha ama promos ku TV bamba ababhadala TV license. I think senisebenzile kunengile senikwendele ukuzama kukhokha le message out there ukuthi bamfu should pay TV license. Niyevakala invele inganani le level of compliance?
I level of compliance Lulu at las khona nyalo ngingathi it's between 70 to 80%. Again, it will vary ngema-factors lahlukene. Kunemabhizinisi ngalinye ilanga ibhizinisi mhlawumbe ayisa-operate. So nakhona kune-fluctuation. As much as we are saying it's between 70 and 80%, but there are those factors that then come into play.
Alright. So ngifuna singene kulama inspections because siyazi ukuthi vele animi selo niyaqhubeka nama inspections lamanye abama surprises labanye mhlambe kukhona lenibabekela ukuthi indawo vela yini lenikhanzako nje vele nansaya la ititolo nisahlole emakhaya ukuthi bamfu bayobhadala nivele lomthelo.
Ikakhulu Lulu asisesibuke nangemabhizinisi. Siyakukhanza lokho ukuthi cishe kukhona nangemabhizinisi la adamant to pay TV license, which then pains the common man ngoba igcina seyiwela kuye le Swati. Utawuphuma la stolo angakayibhadali noma angakawubhadali lo mthelo wamabonakudze. Lesisho kona ukuthi kwanyalo sisasebenza nalama strategies lataw enforcer even looking at the penalties of how lama business can respond towards the need for them to ensure ukuthi not only do they comply ngokuthi babhadale umthelo, but ensure because nase babhadele there are terms and conditions labekiwe kule certificate noma labakhulumiswa ukuthi kufanele bese bayakwenda ukuthi there is full compliance kubo as a business. Angibekise nje if a customer atawungena athenge mabonakudze ubhekekile ukuthi losoma business noma loyo umthengisi wamabonakudze bese sokoleka umthelo we TV license kulelo customer. Lo munye uyakhanza ukuthi utawukoleka lo munye angawukoleki. Nase bambamba lo wekunene engcinye ukuthi uyaphuma lesitolo ngandlanhla lembi nange ma inspectors aka TV license ayambuta wena wekunene ngabe soyibhadele yini TV license. Utawusho lona ukuthi angatani naleyo ntfo leyo mina nje ngibhadele but awucela kubona le receipt, and the receipt proves ukuthi kune price yale TV kuphela noma yalo mabonakudze nale device lenye kuphela ayikabhadalwa lo mthelo. So uyakubona ukuthi sekwena kubalkhoni. So siyakukhanza lokho ukuthi kunetitolo letingasibambisi ikakhulu ekukolekeni lo mthelo wamabonakudze.
So ingabe tinyathelo tini leni dithatha ko TV license kuze vele lo tinkampani titawu comply nato ngoba vele kumele kubanjiswane vele compliance kumele ihambe embili ni bese nitenda kanjani titolo.
Titolo Lulu sisebenza nemthetho. So konke lesikwendako is based on lo mthetho welive noma lo mthetho weSwaziland Television Authority Act nema regulations akhona. Let's see, once there is no compliance, then the next step kokuthi ku prepare a letter of demand, and then that person is further engaged or forwarded for legal action. So besides that, then we also are looking at other punitive strategies.
So sengenteke ukuthi nifike lapho lokuthi mhlawumbe senibakhokhela senibabhalela incwadi sekuphuma lelo samani letinkampani ukuze dikhona ukuthi tinibambise.
Kulomnyaka sisekutheni nje sisaba encourage ukuthi we have been seeing maybe a trend ukuthi nakulomnyaka sikhulumile nawe wayenkantolo, but you are failing to to adhere. So la nyalo nje as we speak, those are the strategies that we are saying, okay, with other partners that we are working with, what else can we say? Because I lenza baye mthetho wamabonakudze I affect Eswatini TV noma the TV license department kuphela. If it affects even other stakeholders or partners nabo mhlawumbe lababukete emabhizinisi even laseSwatini.
Alright. So ngifuna singene phume ku maningi ma cases but meaning imibuto abamla bayibutako ukuthi nangabe iTV babathengele as a gift present noma mhlambe lenye seyahlala nje inzala lenye mhlambe seyifile kune audio kuphela ayisasebenza nje diningi vele lama excuses laba wendako ngabe in those instances kumele besebenza kanjani lapho
kukhumbuta yena umbukeli lulu ekutheni uma ngabe unamabona kuze umthetho weSwaziland Television Authority Act uthi uyawubhadala umthelo wamabona kuze kuyi responsibility ya munye nangamunye lona mabona kuze noma lose businessini yamabona kuze noma electronics ngokuthi bese soyalithinza phela lihovisi noma lihlangothi lwaka TV license noma ke Eswatini TV ngokuthi ingabe nase kunje ngendanjani kune procedure ke leba khona lokubhekeke ukuthi ngiloyo naloyo ayilandzele ungasicontacta bese kuba ke naleli form loligcwalisako uyilifungele ulibuyise khona ehovisini laka TV license ngokuthi leyo device ayisekho in your hands noma ke say ayisayilungiseki imitamo soyendile kodwa ke ayisalungiseki ngaleyo ndlela ke bese kuyabonakala ukuthi cha that one bese seba scraped off kodwa ke angisho ngiphinze ngigcizelele lokho ukuthi as long as kubede leyo communication noma lokuveta leyo ndzaba umthelo uyawuchubeka ubale ngeminyaka and as a result umuntu utikhanza sekaba nema penalties lamanengi.
Speaking of penalties nje 50% nje buhlala usho so are people forthcoming in paying leyo mali leyo
absolutely yes
so bayanibambisa kude ukuthi mhlawumbe senikhokha
siyabonga
ingwazi
kakhulu esiveni
so kuba sikhathi lesinganani lenisifolo ukuthi umuntu osola kabhadala imali size nje simcharge ipenalty years
ipenalty is yearly njengalokho ngichazile ukuthi iTV license ingumnyaka lokusho ukuthi 12 months siyabuka ke after the 12 months ngoba phela siba nayo lendlela yokukhumbuta either through SMS calls emails for my business my invoices that are sent out so kube the period yokuthi okay this person noma loyo soma business so uniketiwe isikhathi emva kwaloko ke sengikuthi sesithatha the legal route.
So speaking of nje ukuthi niyabashayela nama clients enu your customer ngiyakhomela ukuthi iprogram layo lena isukumisa ukuthi nishayele ama customer kuza manje ku-update ku system yenu ngabe lapho nje niyakhona nikubambiseka khona esiveni
sithanza kubonga kakhulu Lulu siyabona futhi siya-acknowledge ukuthi kuleti insuku kunenzaba lemadima kakhulu yetinswela boya but sikukhanzile ukuthi ema customer ayasibambisa because nawo ayafuna aphinze a verify ngendlela yawo ukuthi is this authentic noma lo muntu soyangishaya lo ngikhuluma naye so siyabonga kakhulu ukuthi sivevele bese responda positively.
Niyakhona yini batfola ngalokuthi vele diningi letindzaba especially nje lanisendela ama inspections baningi bantu laba taw pretender as basebenta khona ka TV license niyawatfola nama cases lawo ukuthi mhlambe sekugebengwe bamfu ngabekise libonjeni bathi kufike bamfu labathi baka TV license ingabe veni niyakhona yini kulandzelela leyo case leyo bagcina batfolakela
lesiye sikutame Lulu siye shall I say sibambisane mhlawumbe nalawo ma institutions ubekisa njengendzaba yaselibonjeni siye sikhulume nenkampani ibe ngiyo lesibambisako nokukhipha ama notices kokuthi bekunene nitawubheka laba abantu batawube babonakala ngani identification kutakwendeka ini and then ngaleyo ndlela sibambiseke so there have been close to nil ema cases lafana nalawo ukuthi kube nebugebengu sisaphumile sisebenta.
So speaking of nje tinswela boya vele kuganga kusebamfini so vele batawuhlela babona ama opportunities ukuthi bagange bagebenge bamfuthi imali tabo ngifuna nje sichazele babukele ukuthi vele kahle kahle TV license siyibhadala kuphi kanjani
mbukeli siyibhadala ka-MTN mobile money. Now nahamba mali nje uyavela ungene ku *007 hash. Uye number 3 la kuthi khona pay bills and electricity. Bese ke soya number 7 lapho khona ku TV license. Uyawufaka i-ID number yakho bese sothumela imali yakho lefanele uyibhadale.
Yeah.
Yes. Letinye ke tindlela imali nakhona ungena ku *232 hash. Ubese ke soyalandzela luhla nakhona ukhona TV license. Faka i-ID yakho nemali loyibhadalako.
Alright.
Selagcizelela ke indzaba yasebhange. Sinayinye i-account sing Eswatini TV for kubhadala umthelo wamabonakudze lese Nedbank. Longathandza kubuta ngayo. Ngiyathemba ukuthi tinhlelo letilandzelako noma kuma promos uyawibona inombolo lengiyo lobhadala kuyo. Ngingasho ke ukuthi kulo MTN mobile money nawufuna kuba faster lenye indlela ngilo 76222 000 76222 000. Ngaso sonke isikhathi nawubhadala ufaka i-ID number yakho nelinani lemali. Ungaya ke naseposini lelithutane nawe. Nakhona uhamba ne-ID yakho nelinani lemali lolibhadalako. So kwanyalo ngileto tindlela ke ungaya ke nasemahhovisini aka TV license lasedolobheni eMbabane eMadlenya House noma khona station semsakato sibuko semaswati noma sibuko sesive ubhadale khona.
Ngiyacabanga ukuthi kuyacaca vele solo siyayiteka sithi bekunene asibhadaleni lapho kufanele khona ungavumele tinswela boya dikuthathele imali yakho. So for information, more information ungashayela donate inombolo lacetha akudisho uphumelela. Sibahlwete makethe sitabe yasichubeka nehlelo.
Be sure to catch Business Watch every Wednesday between 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. where we feature the latest updates on business news, market trends, and exclusive interviews with industry leaders, as well as insights on emerging small and medium enterprises in the commercial sector. Business Watch, your business leader.
Right, welcome back. You're still watching Kusile Breakfast Show. Thank you for staying with us. Lo muhlalanga lelikhulu letintatheli lapha evini nasemhlabeni wonke nje. It is World Press Freedom Day. This is the 31st edition of the World Press Freedom Day. Kanti ke isiqubulo salonyaka nje will highlight the significant role played by the press, journalism, access and dissemination of information to ensure and secure a sustainable future that respects the rights of individuals and their diversity of voices, as well as gender equality. In 2024, World Press Freedom is dedicated to the importance of journalism and freedom of expression in the context of the current global environmental crisis. I am joined by Mr. Jabu Umatebula Lo Suka Khona Editors Forum, who's the Secretary General Khona Editors Forum lapha ekhaya Eswatini. Kuva nje ma challenges lapha kenene tintathelta lapha ekhaya Eswatini, and of course kuva ukuthi do we have a freedom of expression? Very good morning and welcome. Thank you to the show. Sabanga usibenati Baba Matebula. It's an honor to have you. Firstly nje kuva nje ukuthi what is the purpose of this day, World Press Freedom Day? Libale kangakanani nje ku-media yonke lapha eSwatini?
Good morning Lulu, and good morning kubalaleli nebabukeli. Lusuku lolumqoka lolu kutinsatseli, not only for journalists but also for the public, because it commemorates freedom of the press. Freedom of the press is a human right which is covered under Article 19 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. The global community meeting in Namibia decided that there should be a day dedicated to recognizing freedom of the press. Because we tend to consider freedom of the press as a freedom for journalists, yet this is a freedom that is a freedom for everyone. It has a freedom for journalists to be able to do their job. They do that job not only for their employers, but they do that job for members of the public, because the function of the press, the freedom we speak to, is the ability of journalists to be able to access information, all information, information that is going to be accurate, information that is going to be credible, information that is going to help members of the public make important decisions in their lives. And this information is not information that should be suitable for media owners or for journalists or for other sectors of the community that have control and power in society. It's information that should be clean and clear and sustainable and helpful.
Mr. Masabula, yesterday the UN hosted the media, Eswatini media, for discussions in commemoration of World Press Freedom Day. And one of the key topics that we discussed there was the media self-regulating. How important, how crucial is this for the media to self-regulate?
Self-regulation speaks to the right of the public to access information that is accurate, that is free, that is fair, that is good quality. Self-regulation also speaks to consumer protection in the quality of information that they receive. Information in its diversity is often controversial. Controversy arises from so many factors. One is that we are not the same in society. There are short people, there are tall people, there are women, there are men, there are young people, there are old people. We have different needs in information. Sometimes there are conflicts, and conflicts affect one sector against another. So when there are those consumer conflicts, those conflicts should be resolved in a way that is helpful for both the media and the people who complain. People have issues, and they have issues against the media, and those issues must be resolved in a way that everyone is happy. The media will always demand the right to tell the story the way they see best. But, often this affects others. There are issues of children, for instance. There are ways that we should talk about children and young people in ways that do not hurt them or their future. And, when the media sometimes do not recognize these sensitivities, other people should then bring them to order. The media should always be accountable to the society within which they live. Now, self-regulation assumes that members of the media, as media owners, as workers, as editors, and everyone that is affected by the media are members of the society in which they are. And as members of society, they are responsible members. They should be held accountable, and when they're being called to order, they must make good on whatever they are being, held to account for. Now, self-regulation assumes that media owners take responsibility for whatever effect that, the content of the media which they own has on the public. And self-regulation means that they are prepared to take action to make good. Self-regulation means that they do not need to wait for other people, other authorities, government, parliament, the courts to take action against them. They must be able to do that on their own.
So I want us to get into the challenges, Mr. Matabula, that journalists face not only in the country and perhaps all over the world. In other countries there are challenges that journalists face, with climate change and conflicts. What challenge do we face here in the country, and how can we address those challenges?
I think one of the first challenges is the nature of the beast. The nature of the job of journalism requires, amongst other things, that the journalist should be present wherever people have an interest. If there is an outbreak of COVID and everyone is confined to safety, because everyone should not, should be protected from being infected, journalists cannot be confined. Journalists must go out there, COVID or no COVID, and be able to tell people what is this COVID. Naturally, if COVID is infectious, journalists will be infected, as we have gone through COVID. Actually, COVID is a very important illustration, because journalists who went out to cover COVID stories would come back to the newsroom and mingle with people who were not out there, who have not been infected, and co-infect. And at the end of the day, during COVID, for instance, a lot of journalists, became victims of. But that's the nature of the job. If there are conflicts, it's journalists who go out to look at these conflicts. And, example, we have wars around the world now. There are wars in Israel, there are wars in Iraq, in Ukraine, there are wars in Yemen. Journalists should go out there and be able to tell. And in the nature of things, when bullets are flying, some of them will catch journalists. So it's the nature of the job. Even at home, sometimes you have disturbances. Journalists must go out there and, go there, cover the story, tell the story for members of the public so that they understand what is going on. And when they venture out there, they are venturing into harm's way. And, often also when you have conflicts, people do not understand the role that journalists play. People believe that journalists are partisan. They act on behalf of one entity or the other. People do not understand that journalists are neutral. And it is one of the important functions that World Press Freedom Day creates for us to show that journalists in society are neutral. They are not partisan. So that, and journalists work in compliance with ethics. The opportunity we have not been able to take in the past is to make members of the public know that we have ethics as journalists, what these ethics are, so that when journalists who are not being ethical act, in contravention of the rules by which we work, should be held to account not only by their supervisors, but also by members of the public, which is when self-regulation also comes in, because when a journalist break the code of ethics, members of the public should take them up and report them to the self-regulatory mechanism, and so that they are corrected.
Yeah, we are indeed essential, Mr. Matsabula, and we're always in harm's way, so definitely we do need to be celebrated. Just, we have less than a minute. How are we celebrating this day today?
Today, well, let me start with yesterday. Yesterday we had members of the journalism fraternity with civil society, diplomats, and and the UN family. We had a round table around the issues of self-regulation, because it's a very important subject that has come up quite strongly this year, involving all kinds of people, including members of parliament, including the head of government, who have called for us to do something about self-regulation. I think it was a World Press Freedom Day today and yesterday, is that opportunity to show that something is being done. Today, we are having an important, full day of activities. The first of which is training, training to upskill and reskill journalists, to prepare them for the changing nature of the job, digitization, and how it is going to affect the way they work now and in the future. Later today, we are still at the UN House. We are going to have a ceremony for recognizing journalists who have, most of them, for the number of years they have spent on the job, and thank you very much.
Yeah, all right. I cannot wait for that ceremony. Thank you so much, Mr. Matsabula, for joining us, and happy World Press Freedom Day to every media person out there. Let's take a break. We are in Zabata.
Ujala masoda mahle kunathi lesa.
Sabatandi ukuthi njengalokhu
Sivile sive sikhulume.
Okay, but vuka sikhulume.
Is marriage the prize? No.
Do I smash on the first date?
Also, I don't have exes. I only have a current.
Welcome back. Thank you for staying with us. Let's take a look at international news. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken has wrapped up his Middle East trip with an announcement of a ceasefire or hostage deal between Israel and Hamas.
Thank you, Blinken. Thank you. Secretary of State Antony Blinken met Wednesday in Tel Aviv with relatives and supporters of Israeli hostages still held by the militant group Hamas, a U.S. designated terrorist group. Blinken is on his 7th trip to the region since the Israel-Hamas war was triggered by a Hamas attack on October 7th. He is in pursuit of a ceasefire deal that would free the hostages and bring about a pause in the war that has left nearly 35,000 Palestinians dead, according to the Gaza Health Ministry. Blinken and Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant visited the Kerem Shalom crossing into Gaza on Wednesday. Blinken said Israel had made important concessions to allow more aid to reach Palestinians and to reach a ceasefire deal. He said the world is waiting for Hamas to take the deal that is on the table.
Hamas has to decide whether it will take this deal and actually advance the situation for the people that it purports to care about in Gaza. There is no time for delay.
But after a packed trip to Israel, Jordan, and Saudi Arabia, Blinken left for home without any news of a ceasefire agreement. Observers had also been watching for a broader deal that would have involved normalizing ties between Israel and Saudi Arabia, possibly in exchange for a deal that would have ended the war in Gaza. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said he is not willing to end the war to get a hostage deal. And he said a planned military offensive into the Gaza city of Rafah, where at least 1 million Palestinians have fled, would happen whether there is a ceasefire or not. One analyst told VOA Blinken has not been able to achieve a breakthrough.
But I think the real holdup here is the fact that you've got an Israeli government led by Prime Minister Netanyahu that includes voices that strongly oppose a Palestinian state. And the Saudis have made very clear that they want to see a ceasefire in this war in Gaza as soon as possible. And they also want to see a commitment towards building a state of Palestine.
Katula said he was in Saudi Arabia last week and that there has been a lot of progress on a defense pact or other bilateral agreements between Washington and Riyadh, but not on a broader agreement with Israel.
As Israeli President Benjamin Netanyahu vows to enter Rafah to rid the Gaza Strip of Hamas, the United States military has started to build a pier off the coast in hopes of providing more aid to civilians trapped in the violence.
These are the first photos of the new pier the U.S. military is building off the coast of Gaza, a mission aimed at providing up to 150 truckloads of aid per day amid dire food, water, and medicine shortages there. But not everyone is on board with the plan. Some legislators worried on Capitol Hill Tuesday that the American troops building the pier are unnecessarily in harm's way, despite President Joe Biden's assurances that no forces will go into Gaza. And U.S. Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin.
So if someone from land in Gaza shoots at our service members who are on the $320 million pier that we're building, you're telling me our service members can shoot back?
They have the right to return fire to protect themselves.
You guys seem to be sort of saying that boots on a pier connected to the ground, connected to service members shooting into Gaza, doesn't count as boots on the ground?
It does not.
Austin told lawmakers that Israeli forces will help the U.S. secure the pier, which raised further concerns.
I just think given the differences I think we have with the Israelis on civilian casualties, we better get right clear about what the response is going to be when we are shot at, since I don't think many Americans feel that it reflects the same values that we have here.
More than 1,200 Israelis were killed in the October 7th Hamas terror attack. Israel has since laid siege to Gaza in an effort to rid the enclave of Hamas militants. Austin stressed that Israeli forces need to do a better job of protecting civilians. When he was a general, he oversaw the U.S. withdrawal from Iraq in 2011, only to see extremism soon spread across the region, and the Islamic State group emerged to terrorize local populations and threaten American interest.
One of the lessons that we've learned is that you have to make sure you're doing all you can to protect civilians, and because if you don't, then you'll create a longer-term problem for yourself as some of those civilians then turn against you in the future.
Palestinian officials say more than 34,000 Palestinians have been killed in Israel's offensive against the militant group.
Police remain on Columbia University's campus even after clearing out students, protesters and their encampment. But questions remain about how the university and the students move forward.
The scene is startling at Columbia University. A completely empty lawn with no signs of students or their pro-Palestinian encampment, a space where dozens of tents recently stood, entirely cleared out. Overnight Wednesday, hundreds of New York City police officers moved in at the request of University President Manoush Shafik to remove and arrest protesters after a group took over an occupied Hamilton Hall, an academic building on campus. In a statement, Shafik said, "This turn of events has filled me with deep sadness. I'm sorry we reached this point." In total, 109 protesters were arrested and faced charges including trespassing, criminal mischief, and burglary. An additional 173 student protesters were arrested the same night at nearby City College. At Columbia, student reactions are mixed.
It disappoints me to see the police arresting my fellow students. They're just protesting. They're just speaking for what they believe in.
In a press briefing, New York City Mayor Eric Adams said events had progressed beyond peaceful protest.
There's nothing peaceful about barricading buildings, destroying property, or dismantling security cameras. We cannot allow what should be a lawful protest to turn into a violent spectacle that saves and serves no purpose.
But witnesses say the police response was disproportionate to the offense and just as violent, with at least one student seen lying unconscious on the ground during the police raid.
I'm ashamed and horrified at what the university has chosen to do to its students and the actions that it has taken. It's traumatizing for the entire campus.
Others support the decision to bring in police and wonder whether more could have been done after initial student arrests were made at the encampment last week.
I think a big mistake with the first arrests, with encampment number 1, was that they made seems to me zero effort to stop another encampment from being erected. Maybe if they had used adequate police force to stop a second encampment from being built, then we wouldn't even be here today.
Jewish students like Ben Solomon say recent events are distressing.
It's a very hostile environment for all Jewish students. I haven't personally been physically harassed, but I've spoken with Jewish friends of mine who have been spat on, who have been physically forced to flee, students who are considering transferring out.
Shafik has asked police to remain on campus until May 17th, 2 days after commencement ceremonies are scheduled to take place. Whether that move will restore calm or spark more unrest remains to be seen.
The average income of people around the world will be cut by 1/5 because of climate change by the middle of the century, according to a new report by Germany's Potsdam Institute for Climate Impact Research published in the journal Nature.
In the Philippines this week, schools were closed as students and teachers were ordered to stay at home amid temperatures close to 40 degrees Celsius. As many parts of the world experience extreme weather, new research warns that the global impacts of a changing climate are set to cost $38 trillion a year by 2050. That means a reduction in the world's average income of some 19%. Those losses are locked in, says report co-author Maximilian Kotz.
What we find is that over the next 25 to 30 years,
impacts on the economy are consistent across different emission scenarios, regardless of whether we enter a high emission or a low emission world.
Climate change, and especially higher temperatures, have been shown to impact worker productivity, says Kotz.
And that's going to then be manifest across numerous different industries, although it's particularly strong, those impacts when workers are outdoors, so in contexts like manufacturing sectors. And then we also know that impacts on agricultural productivity are very strong from, again, particularly high temperatures.
The research looked at climate and economic data from the past 40 years from more than 1,600 regions across the world and used it to assess future impacts. Those least responsible for global emissions are likely to be worst hit.
Regions in the global south are those which are most vulnerable and which are going to be most strongly affected by future climate change. And the simple reason for that is that these regions, they're already hotter.
The report concludes that tackling climate change would be far cheaper than putting up with the economic damage. It says the cost of reducing greenhouse gas emissions would be just a sixth of the $38 trillion impact of climate change by 2050.
When Chinese journalist Su Yutong fled her home country in 2010, she thought she would find safety. But even in exile in Germany, the reporter is targeted by China.
Su Yutong has become a skilled chef. Cooking dishes she loved in Beijing connects the journalist with her home country and helps fill the long periods spent home alone. The reason for her self-imposed isolation, years of attacks and threats from China.
I keep telling the truth, so they want me to shut up, including by threatening me.
Sharing a banned book on Tiananmen Square back in 2010 began Su's troubles. Police raided her home in Beijing and held her under house arrest. But with the help of friends, she escaped to Europe. For a while, Germany's capital provided a sense of safety. Su wrote human rights stories for Deutsche Welle and then Radio Free Asia. But the sense of safety soon disappeared. In 2022, strange men started turning up at her building, brought there by an underground sex website that listed her address.
I felt very disgusted and very humiliated, and I had some mental health problems at the time. I was afraid to walk down the street.
The worst was yet to come. In 2023, assailants used Su and two Chinese activists' identities to book rooms at luxury hotels in Berlin and other cities. Then they called in fake bomb threats. Experts say that Su's case is extreme, even for Beijing, which ranks among the worst perpetrators of transnational repression.
The basic tactics of transnational repression they're usually geared towards showing people that they can't get away from the Chinese government.
The driving goal, says Oldberg, is to stop any criticism of China overseas. Neither China's embassy in Berlin nor its foreign ministry responded to VOA's requests for comment. Being targeted is a lonely experience. Over a 2-year period, Su barely left her apartment. She says even something as simple as a walk in the park can feel tinged with danger.
When I went out, I kept checking to see if there were any suspicious people around me, and I rarely even went out of the house.
Such a response is typical, experts say.
So paranoia is a common response across different communities, and often people fear that other actors or individuals within the community could spy on them, and these fears are not unfounded.
But now, Su says she feels less afraid.
They didn't expect me to slowly come out of that shadow. I think they should be afraid, not me. They can't shut me up. They can't achieve this goal.
Her life is fuller again, but Su's apartment is still sparse. After the 2023 incidents, police recommended she move. When she did, she left nearly everything behind, except the tools she needed to keep reporting.
China blocks the truth. It needs to have a lot of journalists to tell the real stories, tell the real events, and the truth.
In one way, says Su, there's a sense of comfort in knowing that Beijing is scared too. If they weren't, Su believes, they wouldn't try so hard to silence her.
A Japanese diplomat's act of defiance during World War II saved thousands of lives. It's also the focus of an ongoing effort by an American musician to pay tribute to the Japanese Schindler.
World-renowned cellist and musician Christina Reiko Cooper weaves a multicultural narrative in many of her performances around the globe.
My mother's Japanese and my father's American.
And her husband is Jewish. Through him, Cooper learned of the story of Chiyune Sugihara, a Japanese diplomat stationed in Kaunas, Lithuania during World War II, who issued visas to Jews fleeing the advancing Nazi army, defying the Japanese government he served.
I know what it means, like to go against authority in the Japanese culture. That just doesn't happen.
Over a 2-month period in 1940, Sugihara issued more than 2,000 visas to Jewish families, enabling them to travel through the Soviet Union to Japan with transit to another country.
This is a permit.
Then 6-year-old Chaya Leah Walken, now Chaya Small, was among them.
He saved my life. He saved my home. He saved everything.
Small and her immediate family spent the rest of the war in a ghetto in Shanghai, China. They were the only members of their once large extended family to survive the Holocaust.
One of my favorite pictures, the fear.
Small says her parents spent much of their life afterward seeking ways to express their thanks to Sugihara.
We couldn't find him. He became ostracized.
In post-war Japan, Sugihara lived in relative obscurity until his death in 1986. Cooper learned that while his act of mercy was overlooked by his own country during his life, it was never forgotten by those he saved.
It wasn't until the very end of his life that he knew that he even saved one person, much less, thousands.
I am grateful to God for every day of the wonders and the miracles he had done for us. Because Sugihara was not a Noah, it was a miracle.
Sugihara was recognized as a righteous among the nations, one of Israel's highest honors.
It's something that not a lot of people know about.
Something Leah Rausch says the Illinois Holocaust Museum and Education Center tries to correct through exhibits honoring Sugihara and through public engagements like this performance by Christina Cooper.
Today I'm playing a program with solo cello and shakuhachi, which is a traditional Japanese instrument.
Cooper's performance is an extension of a larger project honoring Sugihara, incorporating choir and symphony in a grand concert that premiered at Carnegie Hall in New York City in 2023. Whether playing in a symphony or a duet, Cooper seeks to keep Sugihara's legacy alive through music.
It's the universal language, right? You don't need words. You don't need visuals. You don't need an understanding of another language. You listen, you absorb, and it goes straight to the soul. So we're hoping that we can bring the story of Sugihara and what he stood for through our music.
For Cooper, who now lives in Israel and is a convert to Judaism, Sugihara's gesture isn't just a history lesson.
This quiet, modest Japanese man was responsible for the existence of my husband and my 3 children in my life as I know it.
Cooper's father-in-law also received a Sugihara visa. Her 3 children are among tens of thousands of descendants alive today because of Sugihara's actions, which is why, to Cooper, the music is more than a tribute, something survivors like Chaya Small understand while watching her perform.
A different way of saying thank you. It was her way of expressing her gratitude.
Thank you for my beautiful children. Thank you for my amazing husband. Thank you for my amazing life. Thank you for everything you did.
Chiyune Sugihara is now a household name in Japan. While some historians have raised doubts about the significance of him issuing the visas,
I attribute that to politics.
Survivor Chaya Small says she owes her life to the man she wishes she could have met in person.
I have been so in awe for saving us, for giving us back a country, a world, a people.
The Center on Holocaust Survivor Care and Institute on Aging and Trauma helps older adults with a history of trauma cope with depression and anxiety resulting from their horrific experiences. These days, the center is also helping Holocaust survivors deal with the trauma of 2 modern wars in Ukraine and Israel.
Alexander Sherman was only 12 when the Second World War became a reality for him and his family.
My grandma and grandpa were shot by Germans during the occupation of Donbass and Taganrog. My father, he was a doctor, died on the front lines in 1941 near Smolensk.
Sherman, his sister, and mother miraculously stayed alive. When the war was finally over, they came back to what is now Ukraine, desperate to rebuild. Today, Sherman lives in California and relives his past when he sees Ukraine being shelled yet again.
This was an outrageous invasion, not justified by anything. A bandit move, a huge country attacking a small one.
Another Ukrainian Holocaust survivor, Жанна Zak, also moved to California years ago.
I went to school in Moscow many years ago, and I know how people live there. Many of my friends are still there. They're the same age as me, and they're scared a lot.
Both Ukrainian Jews, Zak and Sherman, are heartbroken as they watch two wars very closely, one in Ukraine and one between Israel and Hamas. They have relatives and family in both countries. Shelley Ruud Wernick is the managing director of the Center on Holocaust Survivor Care and Institute on Aging and Trauma for the Jewish Federations of North America. The center, which has centers throughout North America, strives to help people like Zak and Sherman cope with war-induced depression and anxiety. Wernick says the Russian invasion of Ukraine and more recently the war in Israel have triggered some of the people she works with.
What happened in Ukraine, where many Holocaust survivors are seeing names of familiar cities, seeing people under attack once again, seeing cities destroyed, cities that were rebuilt and now destroyed. The war in Ukraine and the war in Israel, the terrorist attacks on October 7th, have created re-traumatization among Holocaust survivors.
Wernick says survivors may need special care in such traumatic times.
Social workers may be doing extra check-in calls, extra friendly visitors, extra phone calls when they know that people need the help more. Or they may hold a current events group therapy session.
There are also dance and yoga classes and hobby-centered meetings that help manage stress and anxiety, as well as routine meetings called open mics, where anyone can talk about what's happening in Israel and Ukraine. Both Sherman and Zak take part in some of these activities, but for Zak, one question remains.
I can't understand why people cannot live without wars.
Some 1.3 million people died from TB in 2022. The disease is fully treatable but relies on timely diagnosis. Mirel Kamariza from UCLA has developed a test that can detect the bacteria quickly, precisely, and inexpensively.
Growing up in Burundi in the 1990s, Mireille Kamariza saw people dying from tuberculosis. That childhood experience drove her to become a scientist.
That has been a core motivation for the work that I do in studying infectious diseases, developing diagnostics that can be implemented in places like my home country of Burundi, where we can hopefully eradicate the diseases similar to how we have done in the global north.
Kamariza is now a molecular bioengineer at the University of California, Los Angeles. She came up with a simple yet effective test to detect the disease that kills more than 1 million people per year worldwide. This sugary powder mixed with water and the patient's phlegm or blood will detect tuberculosis bacteria within hours.
The genesis of this whole project was the concept of taking something that bacteria love to ingest, a sugar in this case, and then putting a biosensor on it, and then seeing if that works, and it did work. That was great.
Existing TB tests have drawbacks. They can take weeks, like a culture test, can register false results like a smear test, or are expensive, like a molecular test, says UCLA Life Sciences Dean Tracy Johnson.
She's focused on making that dye more specific and brighter So that even very common microscopes that are available in places like field clinics in Uganda, where can even be detected in those circumstances. And that's really a game changer.
Kamariza says her test shows if the bacteria are alive or dead, which helps to determine if a person is contagious, and it quickly detects if a patient is responding to treatment. And it will be inexpensive.
The powder that we make is very cheap to make. Especially when you make it on a grand scale, it's going to be less than $1 a test.
But first, it has to pass a clinical trial planned in Uganda to see how well it works in the real world. If it passes, Kamariza says the test would serve not only low-income countries around the world, but also California, where the state has seen a rise of TB cases in the last year.
China's share of the European electric vehicle market has doubled in less than 2 years, with Chinese automakers accounting for 20% of EVs sold in Europe last year. The trend is raising alarm among European car makers, and they are considering pushing for new tariffs.
The Port of Barcelona is one of the key entry points for Chinese-made EVs to the European market. In 2021, nearly 2,000 Chinese-made vehicles arrived at the docks in Barcelona. Last year, that number reached 87,000. Those numbers are adding to concerns expressed by EU officials, including European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen, about growing trade with China.
What we want is China to respect the level playing field when it comes to access for our companies to the Chinese market, to respect transparency about subsidies.
The European Commission is investigating whether European and Chinese electric car manufacturers are competing under the same rules. On average, the cost of Chinese electric cars is at least 20% lower. The Commission says its investigation could result in anti-subsidy measures against China-made imports. Chery Auto, China's largest automaker by export volume, recently signed a joint venture with the Spanish company Ebro Motors to manufacture several models in Barcelona. Spain's leadership considers this an opportunity for growth.
This is a sign of the reindustrialization of Catalonia and the whole of Spain.
Members of Barcelona's car industry agree.
What Europe needs to do is promote EV manufacturing here in Europe, whether it be of European or Chinese makes.
As Europe's leaders and car makers see it, China's aggressive incursion into the European electric car market comes with risks and opportunities. For now, Brussels will have to do a careful balancing act and decide whether it should impose tariffs or opt for greater collaboration with Beijing.
Sibetha kanjalo-ke ngaphandle kwakuleli sibanga kuhlasana nathi sithatha salikhefu nasibuya sifiso udekade temidlalo.
Renewal of TV licenses for 2024 is now open. Here is a quick reminder. A viewer's TV license costs 180 emalangeni per device. Other accessories such as decoders and set-top box cost 50 emalangeni per device. For traders and repairers, TV license costs 300 emalangeni per business area. And now, to pay your TV license, use these following methods. You can use MTN Mobile Money with the number 762222000 or dial *007 *3 *7 hash, or you can use Eswatini Imali. And you can pay our TV license at any post office in the country. Another option is you can use any NetBank branch using our TV license account number 119900430037. Don't forget, when paying for your viewer's TV license, reference with your PIN at all times. And when paying for a retailer TV license, reference with your TIN at all times. For more information, call us on 7802-4543 or 050163 or 34020879. And you can send us a WhatsApp message on 762222000.
Welcome back to the program. Let's get into our sports segment with our sports journalist Fabrice Msonera, who has joined me in studio to discuss I'm just happy that me and you are finally agreeing on certain things. The last time we were together, we agreed that Red Leopard is officially out of the race. We can officially just discuss Mbabane Swallows, Green Mamba, as well as Young Buffaloes.
Yeah.
Welcome to the program. I want us to
yeah.
look at the log standings as it stands getting into the weekend. We have really, really exciting games, particularly the derby. From the log standings, just, let's do a big reflection from when the season started. You remember what you had predicted. Would you have thought this is what the log was going to look like?
It's a good discussion, Sfiso, because I had a chance to speak to some of Mbabane Swallows supporters to say if they don't win against Highlanders this weekend during the Mbabane derby, then there's a question mark to say, do they have what it takes to go all the way in the remaining 2 games? At some point, they'll play Young Buffaloes, but they have Highland this weekend. Just to maybe emphasize on your point, to say, yes, mathematically, if they lose all the 3 games, Green Mamba lose all the 3 games, Buffaloes lose all the 3 games, Leopard can gain momentum, but it's highly unlikely for that to happen. That's why we say Leopard are quite out of the race. But looking at Young Buffaloes, 42, 4 points behind log leaders, 9 points to play for, I still feel like but they should just maybe not put their hearts into the race that much. I think the 2 teams, Green Mamba, which is the Manchester City, and Mbabane Swallows, which is the Arsenal in this context. I think if you look at the remaining 3 games, if they can win the Sunday, this coming weekend against Highlander, and then they go and win against Zurich United, yes, then they win against Buffaloes, then they have a chance of winning that first title in 6 years, the MTN Premier League in 6 years. Who am I putting it at this point in time? Yes, I had predicted the Buffaloes, but along the lines, I could tell that in terms of momentum, they were dropping. But one of them, Green Mamba and Swallows, and Green Mamba is just waiting for that moment when Swallows can just slip a bit, then they will get into the rest. But what I've liked so far, it's what I've witnessed, the fight into the last moment of the league, which I think, similar to English football, the league will be decided on the last day of the season, because even if both teams draw or one of them wins over the weekend, then you still have to look at what will happen on day 25, which is 2 games to go, day 26. So quite interesting. We're in for a last day of the fixture.
Yeah, but our week 24, yes, the focus is the big derby, Mbabane Swallows versus Mbabane Highlanders. But I want us to look at Green Mamba, seated pretty, second position, 44 points, just 2 points behind Mbabane Swallows. But they face off in Nsingizini Hotspurs this weekend.
We've talked about the powers and what Nsingizini can show. And I think if you maybe had to look at their record, I think it's beside this past weekend when they played a draw, I think is it against Illovo? Yes, the other weekend. But if you look at their 13 games before, I mean, in terms of records, they haven't actually lost a game. So it tells you what they're capable of. So they are capable of shocking any big side. And I think Green Mamba going to Nsingizini, they should just be very careful, because they could really get a serious defeat if they're not careful. So coming to this game, it's a tough one, but I think if nothing changes, maybe it's a draw or a win for Green Mamba. If it's really a different result, it's going to be a draw. But otherwise, I see Green Mamba getting 3 points.
And your beloved team sitting at 42 points, the Young Buffaloes, just behind, in front of Real Leopards, which they play this weekend, by the way. They play Real Leopards, but you have rightly said, Fabrice, Real Leopards, they pretty much have nothing to win.
At this point in time,
but you don't predict any match fixing, outside of the fact that that's not legal. But
at this point in time, let it all be clear. We don't want any fixing, because what makes a season very, very exciting. It's when things are going according. I think it's one of the biggest game. Not only it's the biggest game because of Buffaloes and Leopard, but these are the armed forces derbies. These are the teams that provide the majority of players national team level. So game, it's a lot. Leopard, they know that they could really completely, not even mathematically, completely be out of the race. But for young Buffaloes, they're hoping that if they can get the 3 points, maybe Singzini and Highlanders do the job for the two teams above. Who knows, they could be right full swing into the race because they're not that far. 4 points behind log leaders, so anything is possible.
Yeah. I like what is happening, go relegation battle.
Yeah.
You see Denver Sundowns, which I want to predict. They're officially out.
Yeah, I think that they are gone. I think they are gone. If you look at the position.
The points, man.
Yeah, there's 9 points to be played for.
Yeah.
There are 15 points. The person who is in a safe seat is number 12, is 21. So which means 9 points, that's 24. So for you to get that position, you mean you win the remaining 3 games, and the person who's number 12 has to lose all the 3 games, which is highly, once again, unlikely, because at some point, 24, 25, 26, there are fixtures where you will see teams amongst themselves. I think Zurine United at some point will play Moneni, Rangers will play, there will be fixtures among those sides. But I think big up to coach, Nyanga Tlope, who is a legend of the club, if one would say. How many times has he saved the team from situations like this, which I think they are not safe yet, but from where they're standing, Manzini Wanderers, after that draw against Young Buffalo is a huge point. I think they could be safe. I think they're safe. But for me, for the other 2 sides of Manzini, being Morani Pirates and Denver Sundowns, unfortunately, they are going. National First Division next season, they are going. Yeah, they're going. I mean, how can you only win 2 games the entire season so far? I think they are going. Morani Pirates, Denver Sundowns, in my opinion, I think they have gone. Yeah, we have to wait and see how Zulu United maintain that performance. Otherwise, the 2 teams are going.
36 of 38. That's the English Premier League. We are getting into the neck of things.
Yeah.
Arsenal faces Bournemouth this weekend. City plays Wolves. And that's the battle between the 2 teams. The prayer for City, of course, is that hopefully they draw. Arsenal draws this weekend, or at least they lose, but highly unlikely against Bournemouth. And that's the same prayer for Arsenal, I suppose, going into play against Wolves. What are your predictions going into the weekend for these 2 teams?
I think more than anything, so I don't think we get surprises in terms of results. I think both sides, being on home soil, it'll work for them in terms of the advantage. Arsenal against Bournemouth, they are home. For the very first time, I think in more than 25 years, they've never been at this stage of the season when the entire squad is free from injury. I mean, so you've registered 23 players for Premier League, and they are all fit.
Yeah,
that's a miracle. So I think all of them are ready. So even Timber, who I think over the weekend, the other week he was playing in the under-23, he's fit. So I think against this game, the return of Thomas Partey has showed that they needed him. So I think I see them marching on, and I think they could use this opportunity and get more goals, maybe another 4 goals, just against Bournemouth, because who knows, at some point, because they play Wolves and they have got a midweek fixture, which is the game in hand. That's Manchester City, which is the game against Fulham, and then after that, they have got 2 games against Aston Villa and against Tottenham Hotspur. So I don't think they will struggle, Manchester City, on home soil. So it's 3 points for both sides. So Arsenal will jump to 83 and City will jump to 82.
Which game then do we predict, at least for Arsenal, to struggle?
I think for Arsenal, after Bournemouth, Arsenal, they go to Manchester United, which is saying, I think it's a fight of the century. They need to get 3 points. It can be an ugly victory, but they need to get that victory. But the 2 games for City, they have to be very careful. Tottenham and Aston Villa. It's tricky because the 2 teams want to go for Champions League next season. So Spurs and Aston Villa, the difference is huge though, 7 points, but who knows, anything can happen. But City have to be careful. Playing number 4 and number 5, where their standing position was. I think the game that is quite tricky for them, it's the last game of the season, away to Aston Villa. It could be really bad for them.
Spurs also has 2 games to play.
Yeah, Spurs have got 2 games to play, but
the difference is only, 7 points?
7 points, yeah. But they have to go to City, So maybe there's that tricky part.
Right.
But like you say, I like your point, Sfiso, to say you cannot really count them out of the rest, because if for them it's actually 5 games to actually they've got 2 games in hand. If 5 games to go, that's 15 points. So they're still in the race for the number 4 position, which makes it a tough picture for City, because they will face a side.
I mean, yeah.
So those two games, Arsenal, they have to hope that they can drop points. And when you talk about dropping points for City, we're not talking about losing. Even a draw,
it's good enough for Arsenal.
It's good enough for Arsenal because of the goal differences.
But for Spurs, the win is good enough.
Yeah,
so
it's good enough.
That game
even for Aston
is going
Villa.
to be a blockbuster.
Yeah, it's an absolute Villa.
Certainly.
So I'm looking at the setup, the stage. The last game of the season, Arsenal is at home to Everton.
Yeah.
Then you say Aston Villa is at home to Manchester City, which means City is away. So is this a way of celebrating the trophy for Arsenal the first time in 20 years? I mean, they're at home. They win the game. They hope that Aston Villa, make City drop the points, which I think, Sfiso, I'm going to say this, I'm really feeling like we're having a deja vu of 2010, if you remember the Aguero moment, that Manchester City finish, because United was away to, to Queen's. United was away to Southampton, and then City was at home with Queen Park Rangers. So
QPR.
I think if the similar situation went now, you've got Arsenal at home to Everton, and City is away to Aston Villa.
Hope would have it.
Yeah.
But Fabrice, I know it was a rhetorical question when you asked, is this the season for Arsenal? If you're going to ask me, I want to say yes. Trust me. As a Chelsea fan,
I think this is the season for
I
them.
despise City.
Yeah, I think it's the
I really
season
hope
for
Arsenal is going to win it all, but I cannot say that. You guys are the pundits. My prayer is that Arsenal at least does that. But I want us to, go to Liverpool.
Yeah.
The situation currently in the locker room between Klopp and Salah, they have a big game this weekend against Spurs. Spurs doesn't want to lose a game too.
Yeah.
But the conflict within the Liverpool house, is it going to affect them going into this game? Does Liverpool even want to win games like that anymore? Are they going into any game wanting to win?
I think the premature decision by Klopp, which I think for me, in my opinion, was quite premature, because we've seen in the past, other coaches. I think I remember Ferguson, last trophy, he won it, and then after winning the trophy, he said he's leaving the club. So that statement he mentioned towards February, too early. And when he mentioned the statement that he's leaving, they were still in all competitions. They were still in the Carling Cup, FA Cup, Europa League, and the league. So I think that was the start of things. Secondly, I heard Salah saying that if he opens his mouth, he's going to be fired, because he was trying to explain what happened that day.
Yeah.
But people are siding with Salah because they're saying,
why
would you side with Klopp, who is leaving? But it does not change anything, because now it means the coach who is coming in is going to have to deal with a lot of attitudes from the dressing room, which I think it's going to be very big. Teams are watching, which I think players need to be very careful. The likes of Van Dijk, do they stay at the club? They have got a contract left with Liverpool a year. Salah, same situation.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the team, the last one, the players that last won the league with Liverpool, which is the goalkeeper, Baker. You've got Trent, Alexander, you've got Van Dijk and Salah. Those are the 4 players you can mention, actually. So and Robertson. So they have to maintain that squad. They shouldn't leave, because if they leave, the new coach will struggle, which I think majority have started predicting that come next season, we might have a two horses race, being City and Arsenal, because now Klopp not being the new coach would have to transform the team, would have to get into the adaptation of the system.
It's a lot of pressure on the coach.
Yeah, so I think the statement of saying that he's leaving early really did affect the team, and of which you ask yourself, why take a break? What do you want? Do you want to get to the national team? There are jobs. He's being linked with jobs in Saudi Arabia. Where is he going?
Hey, man.
It's a lot.
I want to side with Klopp. And I'm siding with him because, to be fair, if we're going to be honest, we need to say it without reservation.
There are 5 points.
I don't think we have seen a coach that has had this record with Liverpool. And so I think for him making that announcement early, he thought that maybe they would play for him. This was going to be the Klopp season where the players said we want to honor him, and the fans equally.
Okay.
So this is what I hate. Coaches always bear the brunt for slumps and downfalls in teams. And yet we do want to say that Salah hasn't been the same.
Yeah,
since
I got a chance, Fiso, to just, if you look at where they're standing, 5 points behind log leaders.
Exactly.
And the rest at Man City's Art and Arsenal, you can't really expect them to catch up. And then if I think this is just to give an explanation to the Liverpool's fans where it all started as Fiso, because it all started with when Klopp, beginning of the transfer window, I think the previous season, he said, if I get these and such and players to come to the team.
Yeah.
One of the key players he wanted, and he still believes they could have changed, he wanted Jude Bellingham before he went to Madrid. He say, put money on the table, 120 million, let's get the player. So those things where he couldn't get the players he wanted, you know, the transfer market was just not the way he wanted it to be. So it led to him taking that decision, because Klopp was like, if we want to be what City is doing,
yes,
then let's get the privilege of City. I'm not saying let's spend like City. If Pep is coming out and he's spending over 100 million for Haaland, let me also get 120 million and spend on Jude Bellingham. Bellingham decided to go to Madrid. But if really at that time he was approached prior with Liverpool, I don't think he could have rejected the offer. Arsenal comes, they get Rice on 100 million. What about you, Klopp? He wants also to have that power of spending. But I think some of those things led to to the decision for him to say, you know what, I'm not really getting the freedom in terms of transfer windows the way I want. But big up to what he's done for the English football. Yeah, I think the competition for the last, I think we had Ferguson and Arsene Wenger for 10 years. That was between 1990 up to early 2010, 2009-8. Then we had Klopp and we had Pep. I think there was a good 8 years competition, which I think now the next generation of competition is going to be, Pep and Arteta, the two best friends. I think Arteta is putting up a good fight come next season, and Pep knows that. And if you look at also the players, he's approaching.
But do you see what you have done there?
Yeah.
You have made a case for Pep Guardiola, just sitting right there next to Ferguson, if not even above him, as the greatest coach of all time, if you think about it. All the coaches that you have mentioned,
I think
he has battled and beaten.
he's battled them, because I think if he wins this trophy, he will have a record of being the only coach to win the EPL 4 times in a row, because the only coach to do that is Ferguson, who did 3 times in a row, but no one has ever won the English Premiership 4 times
and this is why I always get conflicted when I speak to Manchester United fans, and they say they want City to win the league, and I'm like, do you see what that does
I think more than anything, and I think the generation now we're living in, he's actually transformed the English football. We grew up knowing that for you to play in England, we grew up knowing that for you to play in England, physical, body-wise, you need to have that body for you to play in England. We used to believe that players with small bodies, can't make it in England. But you see what the likes of Dennis Silva, Bernardo Silva, You look at all these players, Odegaard. You look at their bodies. These are the players. They have just changed the football of England.
Prime Hazard, Prime Sterling's quite a lot of them.
So I think Pep deserves he deserves credit for what he's done for the English football so far.
Indeed.
And I think he has to achieve more, because he wants maybe to make sure that next season he gets another Champions League. He wants to make a history for Manchester City, and I think he's comfortable where he is. But trust me, he's got a new competitor come next season. I know Chelsea, Poch needs to increase his game, Pochettino, but I think Arteta is next in line.
Let us not talk about Chelsea. Let's at least do that for me today.
Yeah, next in line. For Manchester United, I'm not sure, because there's a lot of decisions that have to be made in terms of who takes over next season.
Yeah.
But for Arsenal, I think Arteta staying at the club, they will actually once again.
Arsenal's looking good. Arsenal's really.
They would accord him a budget once again, so I think he will fight again next season, even if he doesn't get this one. But I think he deserves it, because up to this moment he's put up a good fight. What more do you want him to do if he can do what he's done so far? So I think credit goes to what he's done. But I think next season it's going to be a different story now. City with Arsenal, the two best club. I think the new coach will have to suffer at Liverpool for him to take the team back to the fight. But
we have at least 10 minutes, and I don't know, with the permission of my producer, if we can, discuss 34 of 38 of the La Liga, discuss the relegation battle there, because we ought to discuss the relegation battle.
We have to talk about the relegation, but I think Everton, more than anything, the Everton side of supporters after that victory against Liverpool, they feel confident. They feel like they won't be relegated. But I always felt that Sheffield United and Burnley are the teams to go. I think Luton Town has done a good job in what they have provided, but hard luck for Company. I think they are going down, and then returning Premier League, Leicester City. So I think it's a team that really showed a good, fight in the past 5-6 seasons. But I think Burnley and Sheffield United. Sheffield United actually, I think after 1 or 2 games they'll be completely out of the rest. Confirmation. Right now we can't confirm, but if they lose the next game, we can confirm that they'll be out. But for Burnley, yes, that improvement for Company. But I was actually surprised how the board and executive of Burnley how confident they were. By the time we started January, February, I thought they were going to fire him. But he stayed the entire season as a coach.
I'm scared for Burnley. I'm scared for Burnley because they play Newcastle this weekend.
Yeah, I think
Luton plays. Who do they play? They play Sheffield.
Luton. I think
they play Everton.
They play Everton. Yeah. So more than anything, I think Burnley they are going down alongside Sheffield United, and I think Luton could be safe. They should be safe. They put up a good fight. I've watched a couple of their games. They are good side, exciting side to watch. And I think it's going to be a beautiful season come also next season. Remaining 3 games, we can't wait. In terms of Europa competitions, remember top 4. Now, after the statement yesterday on Thursday by UEFA that we cannot see 5 teams from England. This is what happens, Fiso. After 4 teams in top leagues in England, in Europe, have selected their teams for Champions League. So they were waiting for countries who could possibly get 5 teams. So England cannot send 5 teams next season. So if it ends like this, we'll have Arsenal, City, Liverpool, and Aston Villa for Champions League next season. So the team to get more teams is Germany because they have got 2 teams into the semi-finals of the Champions League. They have got Borussia Dortmund and Bayern Munich at this stage. Yeah. And then Italy they will get that because of the hierarchy in terms of what they have done in the past. So I think European competitions is 4. So you look at Europa League. I feel like Manchester United, they will maintain the Europa League alongside maybe the likes of Newcastle and Chelsea. But for Champions League, I don't think Manchester United, even next season, they are ready. They need to there's a lot needs to be done in that dressing room. I was actually giving an example for Jadon Sancho. They borrowed him, they loaned him actually to Borussia Dortmund. He's back on form. If you watch his game on Wednesday against PSG,
PSG's been amazing.
And I think he's going to get a call for England in the Euros. Then vis-a-vis to his performance at Manchester United, then automatically you draw a conclusion to say the problem is not the player, the problem is the club, because all the players are leaving and are doing well wherever they're doing. Cristiano, obviously, being Cristiano, doing what he does best. So players, whenever they leave under the current situation, they are losing.
Let's talk about the UEFA Champions League. We saw how Bayern almost disappointed Real Madrid, but Real Madrid being Real Madrid, and we know what they always do in the UEFA Champions League. They managed to equalize using that penalty there. Vinicius Jr., of course, being the man of the moment during that game. Going into the second leg, are we predicting a win for Real Madrid? They should have an advantage.
Okay, it's just that the rule of away goal has been, it doesn't work anymore. It doesn't apply the away goals, but it's like it's still not now. But then you look at the history of the club, like Madrid, 14 times champion of the Champions League, Bayern 6 times, yes. But you look at also the record. Thomas Tuchel has got a good record against Madrid, but I don't think it's the record that is going to work. I think on home soil, Santiago Bernabeu, Madrid has got what it takes to do the job. Same story applies to PSG at Parc des Princes in Paris. I think Mbappe will do the job. Borussia Dortmund, really good performance on Wednesday night.
Indeed.
During the holiday, it was a beautiful game, to watch in front of their fans. But I think PSG.
So you're predicting a win for PSG?
I think it's far from over. 1-0. It's not a package to say you are safe. Maybe 4-0, yes. 3-0, yes. 1-0, you're not safe. PSG at home, in front of their fans, they could change the story. So if I'm predicting Real Madrid and PSG for the final. Football, so I've come to learn that, in my opinion, things sometimes happen for a reason. There's a reason why we might see PSG and Madrid in the final. So that Mbappe moves from one bridge to the other bridge, from the Paris bridge to the Madrid bridge, where you beat them or you face them to show them that this is what they're going to have next season.
Show them your value.
Yeah. And we've seen that happening a couple of times, back then when Bayern Munich played Madrid, then Toni Kroos was playing his last game, then he moved. We saw it the other year at semi-final, Manchester City, Borussia Dortmund. Haaland was playing the last game facing Manchester City.
So the ideal final would be Real Madrid versus
the ideal
PSG.
final, the ideal final.
The fans.
So I think for the fans,
Interesting indeed, Fabrice.
Yeah.
And Real Madrid also in the La Liga. I just really want us to talk about that because when the season started, they were chasing the title with Girona. Girona has since moved into the third position, and we have seen what we've seen all these years, decades and decades. Barcelona and Real Madrid, still chasing the hardware, but we can agree now that this is Real Madrid's league.
It's their moment. I mean, 5 games to go, that's 15 points. You are leading with 11 points difference. I don't think you are stopping, you are stopping Madrid, whoever you are. I mean, they have played the El Clasico already. That's the only game that you can actually hope that Barcelona can, friend them from the speed they are moving on. And I think Xavi, twisting the context of the statement now, saying that he's no more going anywhere. He's staying with the club. I think he's got a lot to offer next season. Yeah, but I think Madrid is going to take the league. I think the gap between the two sides, 11 points, I think it's huge. Girona, at some point, we talked about how good they were, but I was actually seeing this coming because I didn't see them maintaining the form and the performance. So, but to finish the league, I think even Atletico Madrid will jump to third post. So number 1, Madrid, Barcelona.
But Real Madrid's focus is split because they also want to win the UEFA Champions League, so they need to balance out how they play these games. Thank you for coming to the show. As usual, really appreciate your insights. We'll see you on Monday, Fabrice.
Beautiful
Just
stuff.
as much as we will see the fans on Monday, but after the break.
Hello everyone, my name is Mahu. Get the beat down on Saturday.
Kude lesinye isikhathi ngaphandle kwalesi.
Aba research bafunze.
Being risky means ukuthi nalokuwa kwayo kulula.
Nathi kufuna sende ukukhicita lokusembili.
Alright, siliphetha kanjalo ke hlelo lethu lwalo muhla sethembe ukuthi niluthokodela mfowethu ngabe ngikubona ngathi khona ufuna ukusho lokukhulu.
Nginijabulela nje ukuthi weekend and thank you for joining us namhlanje sithemba ukuthi kuningi lokufundzile si celebrate nje langa lethu lamuhla people that are in the media industry city happy world press freedom day sithemba ukuthi indaba nelanga lelihle sawuvile ke udibonele ukuthi iminingi kwano umsebenzi lo wendiwa dintathele and also nje ama challenges laba bhekana nato kungasiko lapha eveni and just all over the world inkulu enzima lesiyidlalako.
Yeah, sinvayilise bekunene sethembe ukuthi ke nasibuya ngemsombuluko na Fabrice sitawubuya soloku sichubeka nje ngalonyawo lethu loke ukuthi ngimi lo correct yena unglo wrong. Green Mamba is showing really good signs at Eswatini. They want to win it all, but Mbabane Swallows is a threat. Young Buffaloes is still a threat, but let's see how the games pan out this weekend. Ngaloko sinvayilise sitanibona ngemsombuluko tsaka.